All right. Well, let me start off with an introduction. I'd like to welcome Michael O'Neill. Michael is the founder of the Solopreneur Hour podcast. So, Michael, tell me a little bit about how you started Solopreneur and why you are unemployable.
Wow, you've just asked two questions that would literally take me a half hour to explain. But the show is called the Solopreneur Hour, and it's 3 times a week on iTunes. As of 2 days ago, I just celebrated my 2 millionth download in
fantastic. Well done.
Thanks. In 13 months, so it's been really good. I had produced another show about a year and a half prior called The Kick-Ass Life with David Wood, which is a kind of a personal development show. He's a guy that I'd met who's an entrepreneur and a really amazing live speaker. Like he said, what if we try to grow your brand globally?
Right.
And he said, well, how do we do that? And I said, well, what if we did a podcast? And he goes, what's a podcast? I'm like, well, it's like a radio show, but it's on demand. And so we launched that, and that was May of 2012. And before we knew it, we had thousands and thousands of downloads every day. We were in 192 countries. It was just a crazy rise, acceleration.
Yeah.
And this audience, all of a sudden there's, 5,000, 10,000 people on the Facebook page, and there's people really engaging, and we're getting these emails of people that were, like, I was literally suicidal, and I decided because of your show to change my lifestyle. I mean, crazy emails like that.
Wow,
so
that's fabulous.
We knew that we were making a difference, and for me, I've been a professional drummer most of my life, so I'm used to sort of being behind the scenes and in a supporting role. In that particular show, I was the producer, so he basically spoke into the mic, and I did everything else. And if anybody is out there who's a podcaster, you know that the speaking into the mic part's about 10% of the success of a show. It's the other 90% that makes you successful, and that's all the promotion and the editing and all the stuff that has to be done, the web stuff and social media and all that. So I was doing a lot of work, and I wasn't. It wasn't completely satisfying me. And what had happened is we had a David. His name is David Wood, and he was climbing Kilimanjaro, and we used to pride ourselves because we would record shows from all over the world. We have a Zoom H4n world, and it was great. The problem is that he was climbing Kilimanjaro, and he couldn't have been more off the radar. Like, he was, obviously he's in Africa. And we had a show to put out. So I decided to jump on and record a show myself. And this was about last May or so, May of 2013. And I found it really comfortable and kind of easy for me. And then I had a lot of great feedback on that. So that really planted the seed for my show. I had been a web guy for the last, it had been almost 20 years now. 94. And I did a lot of web and branding and print and social media work. And somewhere around 2004, 2005, I'd read enough books, the Rich Dad, Poor Dads and the 4-Hour Work Weeks and things like that, that when I went to my cushy 6-figure Fortune 500 creative director job, that I knew I was completely unemployable. Like, I knew too much. I took the blue pill. I knew too much about the other side. And that means that there's no way you can just go to work and clock in and work for somebody else again. So that's when I realized I was unemployable. So what I wanted to do is, with all of these people that I'd met in the last 4 or 5 years that had really fascinating stories of being entrepreneurs and starting from zero and turning themselves into, one of my good friends was a Honda mechanic 7 years ago. Right. And now he makes $30,000 a week. It's just like crazy stories like that. And I said, it'd be really cool to have a show that I could highlight those people.
I'm going to ask you, what makes it so different? What makes your show so different when you're highlighting these people?
Well, it's a good question. I think because that space, especially now on iTunes, is so noisy. Everybody has an entrepreneur show. Everybody is like, well, let's find the journey and inspire people and get actionable content. And I don't seek to do any of those things. I literally want to just sit down like we're having a cup of coffee and have a talk. And I don't care if we talk about football or their car racing or whatever. I want to. My idea in the back of my brain is that someone out there's listening and someone's driving a desk and they don't really want to, but they probably don't feel like they have the right skill set to go off and launch on their own.
Yeah.
When I highlight these people and we actually talk about what their real life is like, it makes them so much more relatable to my audience. And they go, wait a second, that guy is exactly like I am now, and he just did this, this, and this. And that was the big difference, is that he took a little bit of that action and took the step. So I don't really want to hear their entire journey. I just want to hear, when did you discover you were unemployable, and how did you, what was that, what were some of the first steps you took, and how did you kind of, overcome all the fear that is involved in that? And
how does that translate to your working within the voice industry? I mean, how are you keeping within the voice industry as well? Because you came from a drumming background, so you weren't into voice to begin with. Did you go through any training or?
No, that's a good. Actually, no one's ever asked me that before. I have, which is amazing because I get interviewed like 50 times a week. So good for you. I came from a family that Christmas time was like 6-part harmonies when people sang songs. So I had 2 cousins on Broadway. My mom was a pianist. My dad played the sax. My brother's a great guitar player. Everybody can sing. It was just kind of a thing where the voice part was, I think, part of the DNA a little bit.
Right.
And I had a lot of my own, I don't want to say fear, but it's the wrong word. I never sought to be on the microphone. I never sought to be in the spotlight. It's something I never really thought about. But when it happened, I was kind of like, oh, all right, I can do this. This is fine. I can totally do this. And that's really where I had to record that show. Well, that I had a good methodology of explaining things to people that I had no idea about whatever the industry was, but helping them figure it out pretty well. And I think that's really where the speaking thing came from. But
right.
to be honest, there was no, I mean, other than being on a microphone, I've been in studios before singing, but I've never done any kind of VO or anything like that. Now I have, but I hadn't before.
Now, you mentioned your studio. Tell me a little bit about your studio. How did you set that up? What were some of the challenges of setting that up?
Well, all right, so I live in San Diego, and I live in a little neighborhood where all the houses are pretty crammed together, first of all. And I have a house, technically. It might as well be an apartment, but it's a little 2-bedroom house above 4 garages. And behind me to right over there, there's an alley, and there's, 1, 2, 3, 4 apartment buildings right there with people's bedrooms. Mm-hmm. And then right behind me, I almost knocked my computer right off. That would have been really a drag. Right behind me is, about 10 feet away, an entire row of apartment buildings. And then right out my front door, there's 2 more little houses. And then on this side, there's 10 feet. So I'm literally surrounded.
Hemmed in.
I am hemmed in. I have no space. And it's an alley, so everything's reflective. It's all hard buildings all the way down the row. So, and like I said, I'm a drummer. So I wanted to be able to play somehow. I got a 2-bedroom place. This is hardwood floors and a box. So this literally couldn't be worse for.
It's a drum in itself.
By the way, 100 years old. So no ceiling on the windows. Right. Really old single pane windows, and with no, and all the doors have 2 inches at the bottom. So it couldn't be a less sealed room. And when I started, my brother's been in audio for a long time, and I set up 3 gobos, which are these big sound-absorbing panels. So, I built these, basically a door-sized panel with that's about 8 inches deep that had the sound insulation in it. I made 3 giant ones, and I put them either in the corners or right in front of my drums. And that would cut down on the reflections, but really didn't do much at all. It was, from an overall sound point, you could stand right outside and go, oh, I'm hearing it almost as loud as he's playing it. And that was really the biggest challenge, I think, for me.
And then for voice, how did you adjust it for voice too? Because there's one thing in terms of, you're drumming, you're trying to prevent the noise from going out, but with voice, you don't. Yeah,
that's true. I put a gobo in each corner at 45 degrees right behind me. And then I actually before I had my desk shifted, so one was directly behind me. And that was all I had. And it was okay. The thing is, if you get a good microphone, this is a pretty decent mic. This is a Heil PR40. It's okay. But with podcasting, it's not like we can get away with a little bit more, but of course that's never been my mentality. I said, what I would always think, what would a pro do in a studio? How could I set this thing up like an actual studio would be? And that's where I've really started investing time and energy and money. So now I've carpeted the whole thing. Now I've got 2 big throw rugs. I've got obviously 2 or 3 layers of producer's choice blankets all the way around. And you guys will appreciate this because it's you. The day that I put these in, before I put the drums in, before I put the because I have a bookshelf to my right, and so I've got a couple of hard objects in here now. But I walked in here, and when I shut the door, my ears popped. The SPL of the room was so low.
Right.
It was because I had 3 layers deep all the way around, and it was dead in here. It still is. But now that I've put the drums in, they're hollow, and I've got cymbals, I've got a bookshelf, so it's a little more active. But when I walked in, my ears popped, and I was like, wow, that is a really low, because walking from outside of the room to inside of the room, it's like being in an airplane. It just went, and the SPL went so low that my ears popped. I thought that was cool.
Goodness.
I was like, bravo, Vocal Booth, go.
Wow. And now when you're playing your drums, do you ever record yourself playing the drums?
Oh, yeah, sure. In fact, if you listen to the intro of my show, that's me playing the drums on my intro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
And I do. I have a group training program called Solo Lab, and if anybody's launching a podcast within my group, I've told them I will record drums on their intros. So I have a pretty nice setup now, so I can record pretty well if I want to.
Well, Michael, you're welcome to do a little smash intro for us too, if you want.
I would love that. I'm happy to do that. I can't do it now at 9:00 in the morning in San Diego, but I will do that for you. Absolutely.
Oh, that'd be great.
You need a jingle.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Now, tell me also, do you travel much when you're doing your podcasts? I mean, are you ever up Kilimanjaro or any other such landmark?
Not well. Yeah. I mean, I've done quite a bit actually. This Friday, I am traveling from San Diego to Denver, and on the plane ride with me will be arguably the most successful, prominent entrepreneur podcaster. His name is John Lee Dumas, and he has a show called Entrepreneur on Fire. And we're going to do plane casts. So we're going to record a podcast on the plane. I'm going to bring my Zoom and a couple of mics, and we're going to we're going to hang out, and we're going to do a show while we're, it'll be plane cast. It'll be fun. So I'll probably launch that on, let's see, what is this? What is today? October. That'll be like Monday, October 6th. I'll probably run that show.
Right.
2014, depending on when you actually see this interview. But it'll be up. It'll be up on iTunes, I'm sure.
And tell me, what are you doing in Denver?
Believe it or not, I'm his +1 at a wedding for the second time this year. I'm his official wedding date twice now. Much to his girlfriend and my girlfriend's chagrin. But hey, I'm like, hey, they can't make it, then I'll fill in. It'll be great. Right. I'm actually from there. I lived in Boulder for 12 years and Denver for a couple. So I have tons of friends there, and I'm really looking forward to it. In fact, while I'm there, I'm going to be doing a drumming recording session next Monday, the day that the plane cast comes out. I'll be doing a recording session. So I'm excited about that. So I may actually be bringing my gear. I haven't thought about that, but I may have to bring my cymbals and such out there. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Good times. I've actually had friends that are drummers that will go to a new neighborhood, set their stuff up, and they'll make little cards, and they'll take them to the neighbors, and they'll say, fortunately for you, a drummer has moved into your neighborhood. Here's my number. If you ever have an issue with my playing, if it's too loud, if there's if it's a bad time, please write or call or text me here at this number, and I'll immediately stop. And it makes such good faith with the neighbors that you don't get in trouble for doing that. And then obviously if things escalate or whatever, these blankets are so worth like the $300, $400, whatever investment it is that you want to spend, and the more the merrier. Like I went for 3 layers because I want to. Well, I'll say that I will say for anybody that is certainly a drummer, these are godsend. I mean, these are the things, these Producer's Choice acoustic blankets, and you're not paying me to say this, but they take that angst of, oh my gosh, are the police going to show up? Are my neighbors going to knock on my doors? Because I wanted to be sure that no one would ever worry about it. But they're so good and they're so different than just having like a packing blanket, like a
Yeah,
moving
because they were
blanket.
especially actually
So much,
developed with their filling
yes,
to
they're
absorb
so
sound.
much
Yeah.
better than those. And it's funny because I have another podcaster friend who interviewed me yesterday, and he had a moving blanket behind him. I'm like, dude, you got to get a real one. You can't do a moving blanket. It might cut down on a couple reflections, but it's not going to absorb sound. That's the difference.
Right.
So anyway, I can't endorse them enough. I think they're just fantastic, and certainly if you're any kind of podcaster or vocal person, you can loop one or two around you, and you've got this quiet room, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Well, actually, I see that we've got matching blankets behind us.
Yes, I have like 3 layers in my whole studio. Some are white, and some I have black.
Right.
And I can't turn much more than that, but yeah, but it's great, and I have right behind me here. I have right in front of me rather. I have my full drum set. So I have not only my studio here, but I have my drums, and then I live in an area where there's houses every. I'm in a house. I'm in a little independent, like it kind of could be an apartment, but I literally have right here, which you can't tell, but that's a window. Right here behind me is a window, and I have 3 layers of blankets between the window and the apartment that's probably 10 feet on the other side. There's a little alley, and then there's another apartment with a window and probably somebody's bedroom right there. But I've been here now for almost a year and haven't had a single complaint.
That's fabulous. Yeah. And literally, this is, one of the producer's choice blankets that we just strung up to the ceiling. And it's got the little window at the top.
I was going to say, I love the window. I don't have any windows.
Oh, you don't have any windows?
No. I think it would be cool if the ones I had, because I have another double layer over another window. Right. And when I shut them, it gets pitch black in here. There's just zero light.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to actually have that. That I should have thought of that.
Well, I think it makes a big difference as well. If you're in the portable sound booth, because it's quite a small, 3x3 space. If you're feeling claustrophobic at all, it definitely helps to have that, view out.
Yes.
And some people actually put their computer outside of the window so there's no computer hum too.
Oh, that's a good idea. You can, you could probably do that with a little Bluetooth wireless keyboard and have the monitor outside, and then. Yeah, that's a good idea. See, people.
Thank you so much for spending the time with me and just telling me a little bit about yourself, your studio, how you work, your drumming. I'm looking forward to hearing it.